Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed people's mayor of Dolton, Illinois, is facing mounting accusations of corruption, self-enrichment, and misuse of public funds. Henyard, who also serves as supervisor for Thornton Township, has styled herself as a champion of the people, frequently boasting about community initiatives like the village's new ice skating rink. But residents and critics both online and locally have begun calling her Asterisk the most corrupt mayor in America. Asterisk, their anger stems from a growing list of scandals and allegations. From stripping licenses from businesses that don't contribute to her charity, to engaging in pay-to-play kickbacks and bribes. Among the most visible criticisms is Henyard's alleged use of taxpayer money for personal benefit. Reports accuse her of using public funds to finance first-class travel, luxury accommodations, and lavish purchases, including luxury vehicles like BMWs and Range Rovers. Dolton residents are furious over the appearance that their tax dollars are being used not for community improvement, but for Henyard's personal image building. One particularly controversial move: the creation of a skating rink, funded by taxpayer money, that many argue serves more as a personal vanity project than a community resource. Footage of Henyard proudly showcasing the rink has circulated widely online, sparking outrage over misplaced spending priorities. Henyard has also reportedly used public funds as a personal marketing budget. She's placed over 122 billboards across the region emblazoned with her face and name, and spends tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars each month on a public relations firm to manage her image and push back against the growing wave of criticism. But Henyard's hold on power is slipping. Once enjoying near-unanimous support on the Thornton Township Board, she recently lost a key ally, trustee Carmen Carlisle. Carlisle, who had remained silent until now, has come forward as a whistleblower. She claims she stayed quiet out of loyalty, but can no longer ignore the allegations of mismanagement and abuse under Henyard's leadership. Attorneys representing Dolton's trustees have begun taking formal action, pointing to serious issues of financial mismanagement. Meanwhile, Henyard's legal team has attempted to redirect the conversation by focusing on concerns about her security detail. But critics, including the public, local officials, and the media, aren't buying this distraction. Outrage in the community is reaching a boiling point. At public meetings, residents demand answers about how their hard-earned tax money is being spent. "You're not going to understand until they put those cuffs on you," one angry resident said. Another declared, "It's a shame that we, the public, can't ask you anything about the BMWs, the Range Rovers, all of that. You're keeping it all hidden from the taxpayers. And we paid for those." Henyard has attempted to dismiss the mounting criticisms as nothing more than a smear campaign. But the facts emerging suggest otherwise. Community leaders and watchdogs have been stunned by the sheer boldness of Henyard's actions, which seem to reflect a belief that she would never face consequences. Trustees were reportedly shocked when they reviewed the full breakdown of village spending, realizing just how reckless and irresponsible many of the decisions had been. In an extraordinary move, the trustees decided to bring in former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to lead an independent investigation. They believed Lightfoot had the credibility and experience to uncover the truth. Henyard, however, was not pleased by the decision, arguing that only the FBI should be handling such an investigation. She even suggested that Lightfoot should not be compensated for any work related to Dolton. At a tense public meeting, Lori Lightfoot briefly took the microphone to address residents, promising, "We will continue working on Dolton, and we will give you the facts you deserve." But her mic was quickly cut off, underscoring the tension between Henyard and those seeking accountability. Lightfoot's early findings have already raised serious concerns. She uncovered several key missing documents, including annual financial reports and audited financial statements, that Henyard was legally obligated to submit under Illinois state law. According to state requirements, municipalities like Dolton must file these reports each fiscal year to ensure financial transparency. Shockingly, Dolton has not complied with these requirements since fiscal year 2021. Without these audits, the public has no independent confirmation of how taxpayer money has been handled for multiple years, a major red flag in any government operation. The scale of alleged misuse extends far beyond the missing paperwork. While Dolton residents struggle financially, Henyard has openly flaunted taxpayer-funded perks, including luxury travel, vehicles, and the now notorious skating rink. Critics argue that public funds could have been used for essential community needs instead of promoting Henyard's personal brand and lifestyle. In the eyes of many, Henyard has acted with stunning arrogance, seemingly convinced she could spend public money without facing consequences. But now, as the trustees, investigators, and residents push for accountability, Henyard faces mounting pressure to answer for her actions. Dolton's residents are no longer content with vague reassurances or deflections. They want clear, honest explanations, and they're determined to get them. It's your mayor, Tiffany Henyard, the people's mayor. Asterisk, asterisk, that's how Henyard proudly announced herself to Dolton residents as she prepared to unveil a taxpayer-funded skating rink, a project she celebrated as a victory, despite overwhelming opposition from a board of trustees. Remember when all 5 trustees said no? Look what God did, she boasted. But critics argue the rink is just one example of a long pattern of misusing public funds for self-promotion and personal gain. Now, whistleblowers, former staffers, and outraged citizens are coming forward with damning allegations of corruption, luxury spending, and fiscal recklessness that they say have pushed the village of Dolton to financial ruin. A former staff member revealed that Henyard regularly took lavish trips, flying first class, staying at upscale hotels, and attending high-priced conferences, all on the taxpayer's dime. She's living $1 million lifestyle on a public servant salary, the whistleblower said. While the community was struggling, she was living it up, 2 trips a month, each lasting 3 to 6 days, and I'd say 95% of them had nothing to do with township business. One such trip was to Portland, Oregon, for a religious women's conference titled Her Voice. That's crossing a line, the staffer added. You're governing nearly 190,000 voters in township. Not all of them believe what you believe. Using public money to fund religious travel is highly questionable. Even more troubling, Henyard allegedly received a $600 daily per diem on these trips, meant to cover personal meals and expenses, but still charge her hotel stays and meals to the township credit card. You shouldn't be swiping the card at all if you're getting that kind of per diem, the source said. But there it all was, Hilton, Four Seasons, you name it, first-class flights to Vegas. Her ticket alone was $3,700, and her top 8, Keith Freeman, flew on the same tab. That wasn't all. Records also show a $1, $600 ticket for trustee Carmen Carlisle, once a key Henyard ally who has since turned whistleblower. Meanwhile, back in Dolton, residents were left to shoulder the consequences. Local infrastructure is crumbling, services are lagging, and the village's general fund has been drained. The once healthy $5, $6 million surplus in 2022 has turned into a staggering $3, $65 million deficit by 2024, a $9 million collapse under Henyard's leadership. Adding insult to injury, Henyard's face appears on over 100 billboards across the region, promoting her brand more than her policies. While residents face rising costs and dwindling resources, she's been using public money for what critics call a vanity campaign. She wants to play the hero, one resident said, but when it comes to real issues, she's nowhere to be found. Public frustration has reached a breaking point. Protests have erupted, including a walkout during one of Henyard's speeches where residents chanted, "Power to the people." Many believe that the FBI is now involved, investigating how public funds were allegedly used to enrich Henyard and her inner circle. While Henyard continues to deny the allegations, she often does so dismissively, blaming misinformation and political enemies. But critics point out that much of the incriminating evidence comes from her own social media posts, from footage of her unveiling the taxpayer-funded ice rink to photos of luxury travel. Her security detail has also drawn sharp scrutiny. Despite Dolton having a population of only 20,000, Henyard reportedly employs an unusually large security team, not for public safety, but for personal errands and chauffeuring. Former police officers have gone public, saying crime is on the rise because officers are being pulled away from patrol duties to serve Henyard directly. She defends this practice by citing union contracts, but an audit by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot revealed that many officers have earned more in overtime pay than in base salary, suggesting serious financial abuse. Lightfoot, brought in by the village trustees to independently investigate Henyard's administration, has already exposed missing financial documents, including required annual reports and audits that have not been filed since fiscal year 2021. State law mandates these submissions to ensure transparency, but under Henyard, they simply stopped. Meanwhile, her township-issued credit card statements tell a troubling story. Large purchases from Amazon, Best Buy, and luxury retailers, none of which appear tied to official village business. It was so outrageous, people didn't know whether to cry or laugh, one resident said. This wasn't just mismanagement, it was theft of public trust. Despite mounting evidence, Henyard remains defiant, but the calls for accountability are growing louder, with the village in financial disarray, former allies turning against her, and investigators closing in, Many residents feel it's only a matter of time before the full truth comes out and consequences follow.